Hi everyone, and welcome to another cumulative reflection on readings. I am Hannah Hess, and this is for my course CUAI 5017, and this is going to be my reflections in under 6 minutes. And this is my third reading reflection, and this is for weeks 7 through 8. I'm not showing my face this week because this is the start of our spring break, and I have been in pajamas most of the weekend. So I won't be showing my face, but let's go ahead and get started. So for week 7, the first article that I looked at was the WIDA Can Do Philosophy, and this chart in that article really stuck out to me, so I just wanted to put it here for us to look at. So there's 3 categories. We have assets, contributions, and potential, and I just really liked this chart a lot. I liked that it showed the 4 different assets as linguistic, cultural, experiential, and social and emotional. And social and emotional learning is something that's very near and dear to my heart, so I really appreciated that being on there. And then we have the contributions and potential. So let me just read one as an example. So, for example, the asset social emotional learning, the contribution is personal interests and needs, awareness of, empathy for diverse experiences, knowledge and enrichment of community resources. And then for the potential, it's the ability to form and sustain positive relationships and broker meaningful interactions among peers and others within and beyond school. So I just think that's really cool that they had the contributions but also the potential. And then I pulled out this quote from that article as well that said, "By focusing on what learners can do, we send a powerful message." And that just gave me chills again reading it, but I just think that itself is powerful because I personally, it's in my teaching philosophy, I just have like a strong anchor, if you will, towards viewing students through an asset-based lens. And this quote here definitely embodies that. And the WIDA Can Do philosophy, the whole thing really embodies that. By focusing on what learners can do, we send a powerful message. So if you're familiar with the asset-based lens viewpoint, that definitely embodies the same idea. The second article that I looked at for week 7 was the Coleraine, Colorado Differentiated Instruction for ELLs. And I love this website, so whenever I saw that this article was from this website, I was definitely attracted to view it. But this is something that I pulled from this article that I read. Let me turn on my little laser pointer here. This was something from the article that I read. So teachers are successful at differentiating instruction for ELLs when they, and then it has this bulleted list. So let me just read these for you really quickly. So the first one, get to know as much as possible about each student. The second one, have high expectations for all students. Third, have a variety of research-based instructional strategies at hand. Fourth, use ongoing assessment to guide instruction. Fifth, provide multiple types of assessment. Sixth, differentiate homework. Seventh, collaborate. 8, use flexible grouping. And 9, make content comprehensible for all students. So honestly, whenever I read this, like, yes, this is very helpful, but really, oh no, hold on. Oh no, I went the wrong way, sorry. Really, the differentiating homework was really the only one that stood out to me that I was like, okay, this seemed to me like the only teaching method specific to ELLs. I think that the rest of these, like all of these, should truly be done for all students. And I can imagine myself, like, if I didn't have ELLs in my classroom, like, I probably wouldn't take the time to differentiate homework. Maybe I would, but differentiating homework definitely takes a lot of time. Truly, I don't even believe in homework, so this may not even be relevant to my future classroom, but if I had to give homework for some reason or whatever, then I can't really imagine myself taking the time to differentiate homework, especially if I didn't have any ELLs in my classroom. So this is to me personally, this was really the only one that stood out to me that was like, okay, I would do this if I had English language learners in my classroom. But truly, the rest of these listed on here, I feel like is important for all teachers to do for all students. Because even if you don't have English language learners or special ed students in your classroom, I'm sure you still have struggling readers or students that are below grade level. I'm thinking like elementary mindset, by the way. But I'm sure you still have students that are not on grade level at least. So I feel like all of these things are important to do for all students, not just English language learners. Of course, we should make an extra effort if we do have ELLs in our classroom, but I feel like really all of these are important for all students. So aside from that, I think that the article and video is really just focused on how you need to differentiate instruction for ELLs. Obviously, hence the differentiated instruction for ELLs article title. So for week 8, I looked at how to start academic conversations, and I pulled this little chart from that article, and I thought this was really cool. So we have academic conversation features. So the left column, features of conversations with symbols and hand motions. So they have these. So for example, come up with a worthy topic, elaborate and clarify, support ideas, build on or challenge, apply and connect, and then paraphrase. And then we have prompts for using the feature. So why do you think the author wrote this? What are some themes that emerged? Can you elaborate? What do you mean by, etc.? Can you give me an example? What do you think? So how can we apply this idea in our lives? What have we discussed so far? And then prompts for responding. I think the author wrote it to teach us about, or I think it means that, for example, I would add that in my life. We can say that, etc. So this really stuck out to me because I am a huge fan of accountable talk sentence stems, and here's like this is like a very short, small version of something that I've created, but these are some accountable talk sentence stems that I have like made into a little handout for my students. I created this during my student teaching year, and I used it with my students. So basically, the handout is a lot longer than this. This is just the short version, so I could fit into a small picture for you to see. But basically, all of these have like 2 to 3 to 4 even sentence stems for students to respond and converse with each other. And then this bottom one I use for whenever they're doing group work or like group projects or group presentations, which was usually pretty frequent whenever I did lessons. But this bottom part, I would have like the first couple to be about the group, but then the like last few sentence stems I would relate it specifically to the topic that we were discussing. So like retelling the story, sequencing events, etc. So I would change the sentence stems based on the topic, but of course you can make generic ones that would apply to anything, and most of these were generic. But this part of the article really reminded me of this that I've created, and I just think it's so important for students to have sentence stems to be able to communicate with each other, especially in elementary school. I used these the first time with 3rd graders, and it was just really successful, and I thought that they would think that these are lame and not want to use them, but they actually, like, they're so sweet. They actually really use these, and I could see them, like, when they were responding to each other, I could see them reading off of the sentence stems and, like, responding to their peers. So I think this is really important, and this is also a great tool for English language learners because sometimes they just don't know what to say. Sometimes it's hard for them to communicate questions. Even though they have a question, they are confused. Sometimes they just don't know exactly what to say or how to get started with that. And the same thing with the rest of these. Sometimes they just don't know what to say in response to their peers. And it's a maturity thing too. Like for my 3rd graders, whenever I didn't give them sentence stems and just kind of let them talk to each other and give each other feedback, I felt like it would get really off topic really easily, and the responses, if they were on topic, were like kind of vague and just kind of like, oh, you did a good job, etc., etc. But these, to me, for elementary schoolers, I, in my experience, have found these to be extremely helpful, and especially for English language learners because they give them something to go off of to say. So this figure in the article really reminded me of these and just how much these have had an impact on my lessons and my teaching. And also another important aspect of this is that the teacher plays the facilitator role instead of Yeah, instead of the discussion leader. That's what I meant. Okay, yeah. So the teacher plays the facilitator role instead of the discussion leader. So when you give them sentence stems, it gives them prompts to have much more meaningful conversations versus just the teacher constantly leading the discussion and constantly asking questions and constantly like prompting students to give feedback to each other. When you give them sentence stems, I had to say so much less to facilitate the discussion, and it was so much more meaningful. So definitely highly recommend this article and highly recommend sentence stems. And then the second article that I looked at for week 8 was Revoicing, a tool to engage all learners in academic conversations. So I pulled this picture from that article, and I really liked this. This was a different way for me to think about sentence stems. So on the left-hand side, you have like questions. So I just thought this was really interesting, and this was definitely something that I would like to post in a classroom one day. But the student starts with a question. So like, what do you see? What do you think? Do you have any questions? Do you agree or disagree? How do you know? So they start with the question that they have about, maybe it's a book that they're reading, maybe it's a presentation of their peers, etc. And then they have a response frame. So I see, notice, observe. So I think this is really great and something that could be very useful in the classroom to facilitate discussions. So not only do you have like questions that students can ask, but you also have response frames to what other students can say in response to answer their peers. And this is a quote that I pulled from that article that I thought was really helpful. Of course, I just talked to you about accountable talk sentence stems, and this goes right along with that. So I'll just read it really quick. It says, accountable talk consists of 3 dimensions. Accountability, number 1, accountability to the learning community, how students listen, question, and engage with one another to clarify or expand thinking. Number 2, accountability to knowledge, how students use prior knowledge and new knowledge to make evidence for claims and arguments when addressing a topic. Number 3, accountability to standards of reasoning, how students use strategies to deliver arguments, make conclusions, and challenge others' reasoning. So I just thought that was really cool. I read this article and thought about my accountable talk sentence stems, and then I moved on to this article, and it so explicitly talked about accountable talk and what it consists of. So just really enjoyed reading these articles, and these definitely supported a lot of very firm beliefs that I have about accountable talk and sentence stems. That is all I have for this cumulative reflection. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I will see you next time. Bye.